Have you ever felt the frustration of waiting for a price drop that never comes, or worse, watching the price of a component double in the time it takes for your next paycheck to arrive? The hardware that powers our lives, from the smartphones in our pockets to the servers that hold our memories, is undergoing a seismic shift that most people haven't even noticed yet. This isn't just a minor fluctuation in the market or a temporary supply chain hiccup, but rather a fundamental restructuring of how technology is valued. Before we dive into the dark mechanics of this global shift, I invite you to join our community by subscribing to the channel so you can stay ahead of the curve in a world where information is the most expensive currency of all. The shock began quietly, a few whispers in hardware forums and small price adjustments on retail websites, before it turned into a full-scale explosion. Samsung, the titan of the industry, is rumored to be preparing a price hike of nearly 80% across its entire memory portfolio, a move that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. If you look at consumer staples like the Corsair Vengeance RAM, the backbone of countless gaming rigs, the price has nearly tripled in a matter of months, leaving builders in a state of disbelief. Even the humble solid-state drive, or SSD, which we once celebrated for reaching price parity with mechanical hard drives, is seeing its value skyrocket as popular models like the Samsung Evo series become significantly more expensive. This isn't a localized problem affecting one specific brand or one specific region, but a global contagion that is infecting every corner of the memory market. Imagine a student trying to upgrade their laptop for school, only to find that the same 8 gigabytes of memory they bought last year now costs more than the laptop is worth. Or consider a small business owner trying to expand their server capacity, suddenly facing a bill that is double their original projections. The stability we took for granted has evaporated, replaced by a volatile environment where the cost of entry into the modern world is rising faster than most can keep up with. When we look for someone to blame, our eyes instinctively turn toward the rising sun of artificial intelligence, the supposed savior and destroyer of our era. The narrative seems simple enough as Nvidia reports revenue growth that defies the laws of economics, driven by a thirst for data center GPUs that seems impossible to quench. It is easy to point at the massive server farms being built by tech giants and say that they are eating our share of the silicon pie. But if we look closer at the timeline, a troubling inconsistency emerges that challenges this convenient explanation. The boom in artificial intelligence chips has been accelerating since the year 2024, yet the sharpest spikes in DRAM prices didn't truly begin until around October of the year 2025. If the demand was already there, why did the market wait so long to react with such violence? This lag suggests that while AI is certainly a factor, there is a deeper, more calculated mechanism at work behind the scenes. We are witnessing a delayed reaction, a deliberate alignment of market forces that uses the cover of a technological revolution to justify a new era of high prices. To understand why this is happening, we must first understand the invisible architecture of the machines we use every single day. Modern computing is built on a hierarchy of memory, a series of layers designed to bridge the gap between the lightning-fast brain of the CPU and the slow, vast landscape of permanent storage. At the very top are the CPU caches, tiny pools of memory that operate at incredible speeds but can only hold a few megabytes of data. Below them is the system RAM, the workspace where your computer keeps the programs you are currently using. And at the bottom is the SD, the warehouse where everything else is kept. Artificial intelligence models, especially the frontier models that are currently reshaping the world, are massive entities that simply cannot fit into the small, fast layers of this hierarchy. When you try to run these models on a standard computer, the data has to travel back and forth between the slow storage and the processor, creating a bottleneck that makes the system crawl. This is the fundamental reason why AI has shifted the focus from raw computing power to memory bandwidth, the speed at which data can be moved. In the world of AI, it doesn't matter how fast your processor is if you can't feed it the data it needs to think. This shift in focus is why the graphics processing unit, or GPU, has become the most valuable commodity on the planet. Unlike a standard CPU, a server-grade GPU like the Nvidia H100 utilizes a specialized type of memory known as high-bandwidth memory, or HBM. This technology doesn't just store data. It stacks memory chips vertically and connects them through a massive highway of electrical paths, allowing for throughput measured in terabytes per second. This is orders of magnitude faster than anything you would find in a high-end consumer PC, and it is the only way to achieve the token generation speeds required for usable AI. In this new reality, we have moved from a compute-bound world to a bandwidth-bound one, where the ability to move information is more important than the ability to process it. This has turned memory into the new bottleneck of global infrastructure, a precious resource that is being hoarded by those with the deepest pockets. The memory inside an H100 isn't just a component. It is the lifeblood of the machine, and without it, the most powerful chips in the world are nothing more than expensive paperweights. This transition has changed the very nature of what memory manufacturers prioritize, and the consequences for the average consumer are profound. Here lies the hidden link that connects the multi-billion-dollar AI data centers to the RAM in your home computer. Even though the AI world uses HBM and the consumer world uses DDR5 or NAND flash, they are all born in the same delivery rooms, the massive semiconductor fabrication plants or fabs. The companies that dominate this space, like Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron, have a finite amount of production capacity at any given time. When the profit margins on AI-focused memory are significantly higher than those on consumer-grade RAM, the decision for these corporations becomes a simple matter of cold, hard math. They are reallocating their production lines, moving away from the chips that go into your laptop and toward the chips that power the next version of a large language model. This redirection of resources creates a vacuum in the consumer market, a deliberate squeeze on supply that drives up prices for everyone else. It is a form of digital gentrification, where the wealthy inhabitants of the AI ecosystem are pricing out the traditional residents of the hardware market. You aren't just paying more because of a shortage. You are paying more because your needs are no longer the priority of the people who build the world. Expanding the production of memory is not something that can be done overnight, regardless of how much money is thrown at the problem. Building a new semiconductor fab is one of the most complex engineering feats in human history, often taking years to complete and costing upwards of $15 billion. These facilities require specialized equipment, such as extreme ultraviolet lithography machines, which are themselves in short supply and controlled by a single company in the Netherlands. Even if a company decided today to double its output, the fruits of that labor wouldn't hit the shelves for several years. In the meantime, the world's major AI players are not just waiting for the market to sort itself out. They are actively locking up global supply. Hyperscalers and frontier labs are signing long-term contracts that guarantee them a massive portion of the global DRAM output for years to come. This creates a situation where the leftovers for the consumer market are becoming smaller and smaller. When the giants of the industry compete for the same limited pool of silicon, the individual consumer is the one who inevitably loses, forced to pay a premium for the scraps that remain. The memory industry has always been a volatile one, defined by cycles of boom and bust that would make even a seasoned Wall Street trader dizzy. In the past, we have seen periods of oversupply where prices crashed, followed by periods of production discipline where manufacturers cut back to save their profit margins. There is a dark history of price-fixing scandals in this sector, where a handful of suppliers were accused of colluding to keep prices artificially high. This concentration of power is a structural reality of the market, with only 3 or 4 major players controlling the vast majority of the world's memory output. Today's price surge feels like an echo of those past cycles, but with a terrifying new twist. In previous years, a price spike was usually a temporary reaction to an earthquake, a fire at a factory, or a sudden surge in smartphone sales. Those spikes eventually leveled off as new capacity came online and demand cooled down. But the demand for artificial intelligence is not a temporary spike. It is a structural change in the global economy. This time, the manufacturers aren't just waiting for the cycle to turn. They are actively steering it to ensure that the normal of the past never returns. Unlike previous shortages, we are now seeing manufacturers intentionally holding back on their capacity expansion plans. Companies like SK, Hynix, and Micron are taking a much more conservative stance, reducing their output of traditional NAND and DRAM, even as prices rise. They have learned from the past that flooding the market with cheap chips only hurts their bottom line in the long run. By prioritizing high-margin AI products and keeping consumer supply tight, they can maintain elevated prices indefinitely. This is a strategic shift from a volume-based business model to one based on value and scarcity. This suggests that the high prices we are seeing today may stay elevated for much longer than any cycle we have seen before. The bust part of the boom and bust cycle is being artificially delayed or perhaps even eliminated entirely. As long as the demand for AI training and inference continues to grow, there will be no incentive for manufacturers to make life easier for the average PC builder. We are entering a period where hardware is no longer a commodity, but a strategic asset that is guarded with extreme care. Can China, the rising challenger in the semiconductor space, change this equation? For years, the Chinese government has poured billions into domestic companies like CXMT and YMTC, hoping to break the stranglehold of the established memory giants. They have made significant strides, but they remain several years behind the leading-edge technology produced in South Korea and the United States. While they can produce massive amounts of older generation memory, they struggle to compete at the high bandwidth and high density levels required by the AI revolution. Furthermore, geopolitical tensions and export controls have hampered China's ability to acquire the most advanced manufacturing equipment. While domestic Chinese fabs may eventually increase the global supply of cheaper, older standard RAM, they are unlikely to relieve the pressure on the high-end market in the near term. Any meaningful impact they might have will take years to materialize, and by then, the technological frontier will likely have moved even further away. For now, the global memory market remains a closed club, and the entry fee is only going up. So, what happens next in this unfolding drama of silicon and greed? All signs point to a prolonged period where memory prices remain at levels that would have seemed absurd just a few years ago. The combination of insatiable AI demand, constrained production capabilities, and deliberate supply control by a few powerful entities has created a perfect storm. The era of cheap, abundant memory is over, replaced by a world where every gigabyte must be justified. We are seeing a fundamental shift in the cost of digital existence, and it is a change that will ripple through every industry that touches technology. The real question we must ask ourselves isn't whether prices will come back down, but how we will adapt to a world where they don't. How does a creative professional continue to work when the cost of their workstation doubles? How does a student stay competitive when the tools of the trade are priced out of reach? We are moving toward a future where the digital divide is no longer just about access to the internet, but about the quality of the hardware you can afford to run. This is a challenge that will require us to be more mindful, more efficient, and more deliberate in how we use the technology we already have. When we look back at this time, we may see it as the moment when the limitless nature of the digital world finally met the hard reality of physical constraints. It is a lesson in the fragility of our systems and the power of those who control the building blocks of our reality. The advice I give to you is to treat your current hardware with the respect it deserves, for it may be more valuable than you realize. Avoid the temptation to chase every minor upgrade, and instead, focus on optimizing the tools you already possess. In an age of artificial scarcity, the most powerful tool you have is your own resourcefulness and your ability to do more with less. As we navigate this new landscape, I want to ask you a question that I hope you will answer in the comments below. If you had to choose between a world of hyper-intelligent AI that requires expensive hardware, or a return to the affordable, consumer-focused tech world of the past, which would you pick? Is the promise of artificial intelligence worth the price we are being asked to pay at the checkout counter? Your perspective is a vital part of this conversation, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts on how this shift is affecting your life and your work. Thank you for spending this time with me as we explored the hidden forces shaping our digital future. If you found this analysis valuable, please consider subscribing to the channel and sharing this video with others who need to understand the reality behind the rising costs of technology. Together, we can peel back the layers of the curtain and see the world for what it truly is, one byte at a time.